Okay, let's talk about the election, because in the run-up to the election, even on election night itself, Donald Trump baselessly accused Democrats of cheating. As soon as the results started to come in and showed them going his way, he stopped. Silence. Nothing about that. It seems to me that Republicans claim voting fraud and election integrity when you lose and not when you win.
No, I mean, again, as I said before, this election, I think, was the greatest political comeback we've ever seen. I mean,
what's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and let's get one thing clear. Was there ever actual voter fraud in 2020? That's the question that's been hanging over this country, dividing us, undermining trust, and tearing at the very fabric of our democracy. Because if the answer is no, if there was no fraud, then what we've been witnessing isn't just a political fight. It's a sinister game, a manipulation of truth so deep and corrosive that it serves only one purpose: power.
I haven't seen you or your colleagues claiming any election irregularities, no rampant voting fraud this time. Last time around, it wasn't so much about the policy differences or the personality differences. There were false claims about election fraud when Donald Trump lost. This time, Donald Trump won, and you think the election was free and fair. Do you see there's a little bit of a...
No, I think the Democrats got to ask, why did
there?
we go from getting 81 million to getting 70 million? What happened to those 10 million people?
2020, when the results did not go their way, Republican leaders filled the airways, fueled headlines, and corrupted conversations with one word: fraud. They marched into every courtroom, dragged out every hearing, fanned every conspiracy they could get their hands on. They told their followers that the election was rigged, that democracy itself had betrayed them. But here we are in 2024. And what do we hear now that Trump is seemingly on top? Silence. Not a peep about voter fraud. No cries of a stolen election. If election integrity mattered to them, it would matter regardless of the outcome. But that's the rub. This was never about integrity. It was about conditioning Americans to doubt our very own democracy if it didn't serve their interest. And that brings us to Jim Jordan, a man who's become the face of GOP deflection.
Do you believe that the 2024 election was free and fair?
I do. I do.
And why was it different from 2020 when he lost? Is that the only difference?
No, there were concerns about 2020 with all the mail-in voting.
There was no evidence of widespread fraud in 2020. It went through many, many different court cases.
But
I do think the name calling,
that's what I was concerned about.
The name calling was very strong on the Republican side of the aisle from the former president, and you know that. So
this is a man who has spent years feeding the big lie, pushing the notion that our election systems can't be trusted, stoking the fires of conspiracy to keep his base agitated and loyal. But suddenly, when it suits him, he's quiet on the issue. This isn't just hypocrisy, it's a masterclass in deceit, a play to keep the power structure intact by any means necessary. Thank goodness for Dana Bash, because she did what too few journalists do. She held his feet to the fire. She didn't let him sidestep, didn't allow him to spin his web of talking points. Bash kept coming back, pushing, questioning, demanding accountability. And what do we see from Jim Jordan? A man caught, scrambling to avoid the truth like a cornered animal. Jordan didn't want to be accountable, didn't want to answer to the American people, because he knows the truth. He knows that the Republican agenda, Trump's agenda, is rotten to the core. He knows it's an agenda that would strip Americans of their rights, dismantle the systems that keep our society functional, and hand power to the narrow, wealthy elite. But this isn't just about one man, one moment. It's about a pattern, an insidious strategy Republicans have deployed to desensitize Americans to their lies, to normalize deceit as a routine part of governance. If they can get us to accept one lie, what's to stop them from selling us more? This is their game plan, to make us numb to dishonesty, to condition us to see truth as flexible, to get us to a place where we accept the unacceptable. This isn't politics as usual. This is an assault on the very idea of truth, and they're banking on Americans being too worn out to fight back. Let's be clear. Jim Jordan isn't representing the people. He's not fighting for the working class families who put their faith in him, who trust him to look out for their best interests. No, Jordan is fighting for his donors, for the corporations, the elites, the powerful interests that bankroll his career and keep his seat warm in Washington. He's a mouthpiece for those who stand to benefit the most from a government that's free to disregard the law, manipulate the system, and serve a tiny, wealthy few at the expense of everyone else. His loyalty isn't to his constituents. It's to the people who are buying his influence, funding his political machine. And here's where it becomes truly sickening. Jim Jordan and his allies don't just avoid accountability for themselves. They avoid it at the expense of real Americans. While they play their games, families lose their health care, workers lose their pensions, retirees see their Social Security at risk. And when these Americans ask why, when they demand to know how their lives could be so upended, they're met with the same old dismissive deflection. Imagine a working class parent who's just lost their job, their benefits gone, facing retirement with nothing. Imagine that parent being told by their representative, sorry, we're just not going to answer that. That's Jim Jordan. That's what he's telling every single person who dares to ask him for the truth. Now let's talk about what this Republican agenda really means for our country. This isn't just a minor shift in policy. It's a calculated dismantling of democracy itself. They want to strip away protections, deregulate to the point of anarchy, and make this country a playground for the rich and powerful. Imagine a nation with no federal oversight, no safety nets, no accountability. That's the future they're crafting. A future where workers lose their overtime, where public education is gutted, where environmental protections vanish, leaving our water and air vulnerable to pollution and destruction. The stakes couldn't be higher. If we let this slide, if we accept this kind of dishonesty, we're accepting a future where the American dream is nothing more than a cruel joke. A future where opportunity is reserved for the wealthy, where our environment, our health, our freedoms are all for sale to the highest bidder. A future where questions are met with deflection, where the powerful laugh in our faces while they strip us of our rights. Jim Jordan and his allies want a world where the rules only apply to the people at the bottom, while those at the top operate with impunity. They're building a system where they get away with everything while we are left with absolutely nothing. And let's not kid ourselves about what they're doing here. Every deflection, every evasion, every dodge is part of a cynical, calculated power grab. They want us worn out, too frustrated to keep demanding answers, too tired to keep pushing back. They want us desensitized, numb to their lies, ready to accept whatever they say without question. Because once we stop questioning, they win. Once we stop holding them accountable, they get the America that they want. A place where power is concentrated at the top, where everyone else is left scrambling for scraps, and where truth is whatever they say it is. But here's the thing. We're not going to let them get away with this. Not on this channel, not on this movement, not in this country. We're here to call out every lie, every evasion, every blatant attempt to manipulate and control us. Because this isn't just about winning an argument. It's about protecting our future, our democracy, our right to know the truth. We're demanding answers. We're holding them accountable. And we're not letting them desensitize us into accepting the unacceptable. Together, we're standing up. We're pushing back. And we're refusing to let this country fall into the hands of those who would strip it for parts. So if you're tired of the games, if you're tired of being lied to, if you're tired of politicians like Jim Jordan dodging responsibility while your rights and your future are on the line, then join us. Stand with us as we fight for the America that belongs to all of us, not just the wealthy elite. Together, we'll keep shining a light on the truth, fighting for fairness and exposing every single one of their tricks. This is our fight, and we're not backing down. And that is an absolute fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.